prepares PMI in US. PMI in US, whereas in India, it is prepared by IHS market, not market, market, IHS. In the next line, right? PMI is presented as an index. Is presented as an index with score ranging from 0 to 100. Score ranging from 0 to 100. Now this is important. Fine. Up to 50, right? Up to 50, it is shrinking. Up to 50, it is shrinking. Whereas above 50, it is expanding. Above 50 is expanding. So there is a statement in the economic survey, and statement said that despite there is fall in the manufacturing in India, still India's PMI is above 50. Despite there is a fall in the manufacturing, still India's PMI in the manufacturing is above what? 50. So what this statement says that if you know the PMI and the score, then it is easy for you. But if you do not know the meaning of the PMI and its score, it is going to be very difficult for you to understand. So in this way, understanding of, see, sometimes what happens, students read the economic survey and they feel that I got the understanding. But until unless you do not know these small terms and their meaning in that way, even you know that PMI, purchasing manager index. So what PMI do? PMI is maintained by private organizations. And what they do? They go to company and they get the survey. How much inventory you have of the product. Suppose that there is a company who manufacture a camera. Okay, Sony. So they are manufacturing a camera. How much camera are there in warehouse? How much order do you have? How much book of order you have? How much you have in your warehouse? How much you are manufacturing? Fine. At present, how many number you are manufacturing? How much you have in your warehouse and how much order you have? So they collect this data. Fine. So if you will see, this is one of the independent data which provide a true picture of actually what is happening in the economy. Because most of the time, government and government institutions, they are either underscoring or exaggerating the situation. If problem is bigger, then government is going to show it is not as big as. And if government is performing well, then they are going to exaggerate their performance. This is why, if you will see, whenever there is a PMI is released, all leading newspaper are going to publish PMI data. Fine. If you are reading newspaper when you have started your preparation last year in May, June, considering May and June, since then every month at least 2 times PMI was in the Hindu. At least 2 times. But have you ever tried to find out what is PMI? No. Even it is not part of the classes. But the day UPSC Civil Services Prelims exam is going to write, consider the following statement about PMI. Fine. The day they are going to mention, and everybody is going to what? woke up after getting failure. Fine. So many things you can do on your own. Fine. So PMI, if it is 50 above, then it is a positive signature, and if it is less than 50, it is a problematic situation. So economic survey says that there is a decline in the manufacturing in India, but still we are able to maintain what? Still we are able to maintain 50 above PMI. And this 50 above PMI shows a positive sign in what? Positive sign in the manufacturing. It means this manufacturing problem is not a permanent or structural problem. This decline in the manufacturing or decline in the GDP is not a structural issue. It is an issue because of certain factors which are working at short-term level. But in the long run, Indian economy, manufacturing sector is on the right path, having consolidated year by year growth. So this is one small statement. Manufacturing sector is on decline, but still we have resilient PMI over 3 to 4 years. So this is one line, but see this line, how line is translating into showing the problem what our economy is facing is a situational problem, not a structural problem, and we have to work hard in order to resolve this issue. But it is a short-term problem. Fine, but it is above 50, but not near to 100. It is 50 to 60, and we need to make it at where? 70 to 80 at least. And for that purpose, Finance Minister said that there are 4 engines of growth. First engine, agriculture. Second engine, MSME sector. So you can see that the government realized that in order to push the manufacturing in India, we should not just focus on what? Big industries, large industries. We have to focus on what? MSME sector. So this time, in fact, if I will analyze the budget at personal level by doing political and economic analysis both, so I found that this is one of the finest budget India has in last 15 years. Because of what? Because the focus on which sector? MSME. Though government have not put too much money, but at least government have realized how important this sector is. Why? Not just to increase what? GDP. Because this government have found that in last 10 years, they have focused on what? GDP, and they have focused on what? Large industries. But large industries have pushed the GDP, but not what? Employment. It is relatively small industries, they can trigger employment-led GDP. So focus on MSME sector is for what purpose? Focus on MSME sector is for the purpose of pushing the GDP through push what? Employment. So when you will write an answer or you are going to analyze, you have to analyze in this way. The great push for the MSME sector is not going to just increase our income, but it is also going to increase employability. Because bigger sector have greater capability of what? Automation. And that is why they will increase the income very much, but they will increase the employment very less. But if you are going to focus on MSME sector, so MSME sector have a great potential of what? Increasing what? Employment generated growth. Find the term is employment generated growth. So employment is going to generate what? Growth. Growth is not going to generate the employment. It is employment which is going to generate what? Growth. The largest sector, they do what? They generate the growth, but they are not able to generate what? Employment. And that is why they are not able to go what? 400 ke par. Fine. So 400 cross, they have thought that they have not crossed. Then they realize the situation. The great middle class in India is rising, but their aspiration is not fulfilled. So that is why government has bow down towards whom? The middle class. Fine. So middle class, they have given the tax relief in the income tax, but this middle class is very associated with which sector? MSME sector. Fine. So what government did years back, 1991, what they did? They have went for LPG reforms. They went for what? LPG reforms. And this budget is just a foundation for what? LPG 2.0. Why? Because in the first round, they have decreased certain regulations. But if you'll see this year's budget, focusing on MSME sector, government also said that we are going to initiate what? Regulatory reforms. Again, push what sector? MSME sector and economy. Understood? So in this way, they want to give a great push. Have you understood the PMI? Fine. Now write a question. Write a question. Consider the following statement about PMI. Write it a little bit fast, okay? Consider the following statement about PMI. PMI is an economic indicator. Statement number 1. PMI is an economic indicator that measures performance of manufacturing sector and services sector. Manufacturing sector and services sector based on surveys conducted among purchase manager. Surveys conducted among purchase manager. Statement number 2. A PMI above 50. A PMI above 50 indicates economic expansion. Whereas below 50 signals contraction. Third statement. In 2024, India's PMI for the manufacturing sector was consistently remain below 50. Reflecting slowdown in the industries. All three statements are correct, only two correct, only one correct, or none of the correct? Only which one is correct? First statement is correct? First statement is correct or incorrect? First statement is correct or incorrect? PMI stand for Purchasing Manager Index. And it is for which sector? I know that you are going to do this mistake, and that is why deliberately I now told you it is also for what sector? Services sector. Otherwise, my question is going to be what? No meaning. Why? Because statement number 2 and statement number 3, you can get it easily because I already explained it. I just want to give you the scenario. If you have a limited information, how it is going to impact your ability to correct the question or get negative? Fine. With the information which I have given you, if you will attempt this question, you are going to say that only one statement is correct. Because you have a perception that Purchasing Manager Index is used for only which sector? Manufacturing sector. Why? I have explained this purchasing manager index in the context of what? Manufacturing. But have I said that it is not used for the services sector? I have not said that. You perceived. So this is why the limited information, not complete information, is always dangerous. And that is why I deliberately put the second and third statement very easy. Because you are not going to have any suspicion in the mind. Statement number 1, purchasing manager index for manufacturing sector, Jai Mata Di. Second, 50 above, 50 low, abhi to explain kiya tha, just he explained. Again, Jai Mata Di. Fine, this is correct. Third, it is incorrect. Why? I have explained it. So that is why only one statement is correct, but two statements are correct. So keep this thing in the mind. This PMI is used not only for any particular sector, it can be used for any sector. It is purchasing manager. So even in the agriculture sector or associate sector, purchasing manager index can be used, but highly unlikely in the context of India. Why? In India, agriculture activity is highly unorganized. So the PMI data of agriculture sector is not going to work in the Indian context, because sample size is going to be what? Very small. Why? Agriculture sector is a very unorganized sector and do not have pan India same kind of the market. Every state have their own APMCs and their way of doing what? Agriculture business. Whereas manufacturing and services sector, they work at what? National level. So for these two sectors, this purchasing manager index can work in the very well manner. So this PMI is used for both sector. Again, if you have read that PMI in the newspaper, it is easy for you to get it. Why? Because they are giving the data of both sector. Not only manufacturing, but also what? Services sector. So how many statements are correct? First and second is correct. Understood? Now, right, next point. One more indicator they have used to analyze this state of economy. The second indicator here they have used is Global Supply Chain Pressure Index. Global Supply Chain Pressure Index. GSCPI. Global Supply Chain Pressure Index. GSCPI is an economic indicator developed by Federal Reserve. To measure level of stress and disruption. In global supply chain. To create an index, shipping cost, inventory level, and manufacturing delivery time. Is used. Then an index is created. To understand impact of supply chain related issue on policy formulation, economic forecasting, policy formulation, economic forecasting, and inflation analysis. And inflation analysis. See what they do. Global supply chain pressure index. So global supply chain. So products are being manufactured in the different part of the world. Fine. So as I have given you the example, a ship which is supposed to collect the material from Chinese city and come back to where? India. Fine. So the time taken by that ship to reach China only 7 to 10 days. But returning from there, it took how much? 3 months. Minimum 3 months means minimum 4 months is required. So delivery time is low or very high? Very high. So this is going to disrupt the supply chain or not? It is going to create a lot of issues for the supply chain. Suppose that a firm want to create a big large setup for their online classes and they need camera and smart boards, and they have given the date that we are going to establish 100 classrooms around the India. They have announced, but when they got this message from the company, the supplier company who is supplying what? Smart board and cameras, they said that sorry sir, before 4 months it is not possible. And you have put all those things accordingly. You have made your plans and schedules. I am going to start this by this date. I will take the admission. By this, I will do this. So your business is going to be severely impacted or not? Because your entire business is going to be delayed by what? 4 months. Just because of what? Delay in shipping. Fine. So this is why delay in the shipping. Acha. Then what happened? Those ships which are moving from where? Those who are moving from Iran and Yemen area. In that area, consistently, Houthi rebels are targeting what? Shipments. All the ships. And they, later on, they said that we will target only on Israeli-bound ship. But before that, they are targeting what? Every ship. So the shipping cost and the shipping insurance have increased 400 times. Suppose that you have to pay shipping insurance $100. Now you have to pay how much? $400. So if the shipping charges are going to what? Increase, delivery time is going to increase, what will be the impact on inflation? Inflation is going to decrease or increase? Increase. And accordingly, you have to make certain policy decisions. See what India is doing and see countries like US is doing. So US is not just dependent on demand and supply in the economy. They are also looking at how this supply chain is getting disrupted and how the supply chain is going to create a bigger problem on what? Factors like inflation. And if we are collecting the data, then it will be easy for us to manage the inflation in a better manner. Fine. So this is why this indexation is very important. So this index was in news after COVID when the supply chain disruption came into the picture. It was in existence even before that. It was in the existence even before that, but nobody have paid attention to it. When the COVID came, supply chain disruption came, and US data has provided an exact prediction. Then people mesmerized, oh, this data can be used by us also. Then they started following what? US Federal Reserve's data. Earlier, nobody was focusing on that. So this is why sometimes indexations, they are very important, and it was not in news. Since the supply chain disruption is creating problem for India also, and in the bigger manner, then India has started following this one. And this year it has got the mention in what? Economic survey. So possibility of question having there. Maybe they will not create a complete question on this, but they can use in what? Statement term. Understood? Write it down. Write a question on it and answer. Consider the following statement on GSCPI. Consider the following statement on GSCPI. First statement, it is developed by Reserve Bank of India. It is developed by Reserve Bank of India. Just a fun. Right. Actually, I have to give the question first, then I have to explain. I made a mistake. Second statement. This one is interesting. GSCPI value above zero indicates below average supply chain pressure. Indicates below average supply chain pressure. Whereas what you have written, below or above? Below. Statement is GSCPI value below or above? Above zero. Okay. Right further. Whereas value below zero. Indicates above average pressure. Above average pressure. In financial year 2024-25, third statement, in financial year 2024-25, GSCPI was consistently remain above zero. Answer. Answer. All three are correct? Only two is correct? Only one is correct. Which one is correct? First statement is correct or incorrect? First statement is incorrect because it is made by whom? Federal Reserve. Now second statement. Wrong. Why it is wrong? Because I predicted. Right. Answer. First statement is incorrect. Second statement is also incorrect. Second statement is incorrect because value of zero indicates average supply chain pressure. Zero value indicates average supply chain pressure. Whereas above zero value means above average pressure. And below zero value indicates below average pressure. So if the indicator value is what? If the indicator's value is below zero, it is good or bad? If the indicator's value is below zero, below average value of GSCPI is good or bad? I understand you are taking classes morning, but you have to understand I am also taking the class and you know me very well. So answer my question, I'll wind up. Otherwise, be ready. Think and answer. They are saying, what is it? Is showing pressure on supply chain. So if the more pressure on the supply there, supply chain will be resilient or facing problem? Facing problem. If supply chain will face problem, what will the impact on inflation? Inflation will high. So it is good for the economy or bad for the economy? Bad for the economy. Fine. So if the value is above 0, it is not good for the economy. And if the value is below 0, it is good for the economy. You can write in this word also, otherwise you will get confused. Below 0 is a good indicator for the economy, and above 0 is not good for the economy. Okay, for third statement, actually what happens? Third statement, if you'll see the economic survey. So economic survey consistently highlighting the issue of what? Consistently highlighting the issue of supply chain disruption. They are consistently highlighting the supply chain disruption for entire what? Entire economic survey. Because they want to defend themselves now. Economic survey released by whom? Government. Economy is shrinking. So they are putting the blame on whom? Global supply chain crisis, global supply chain crisis. But this data, which is compiled by whom? Federal Reserve. So this compilation of the data by the Federal Reserve shows that on an average for entire 2024, on an average for entire 2024, value was in negative. Average value was in what? Negative. So average value was in negative for entire year. Average. Entire year's average shows that the value is what? Negative. It means that what? Supply chain disruption pressure is not as government of India is trying to portray. They have not mentioned this thing. They have just mentioned what? GSCPI they have mentioned. Global Supply Chain Pressure Index. They have mentioned this thing only. They have not went to the detail. But they went to detail what? Supply chain crisis, supply chain crisis, supply chain crisis, supply chain crisis. Because of the what? Supply chain crisis, Indian economy is not performing well. But when you will dig deep inside and you will find that how it is functioning and how it is going on, then you will find this data, then you can question to the government of India. You cannot, right? But if you will find the data, you will find that there is a contradiction. What government is saying that? Government is saying that because of supply chain disruption, we are facing this issue. But data is showing something else. Data is showing that this indicator on an average for entire 2024, it was in negative, though in some instance it become positive. When there is a height of what? Tension between Israel and Iran. And Houthis, they have started targeting. And see the contradiction. At this moment, government of India is saying that the supply chain disruption, Houthis rebels are doing this. But it is Indian Navy who perform best in the world in order to save those containers, ships. And any of the ship was not targeted. Any of the India shipment was not targeted by the Houthis. Mostly they have targeted those shipments which are any incoming shipment was targeted by Houthis. Why? They are backed by whom? Iran. And India and Iran are having good reputation with each other. So government is saying something, supply chain disruption. But this indicator is showing that it is for entire year, it is what? Negative. Fine. So you have to keep this thing in the mind. Okay? Right, next. Just one more question. Just one rather than question, one concept, which is, see, I told you three things. At global level, at union level, and state level. At union level, government already have mentioned that because of supply chain disruption and inflationary pressure, economy is not able to perform well. Because of this disruption, because of this supply chain disruption and inflationary pressure, Indian economy is not able to perform well. And we are expecting to have a GDP growth rate of 6.4%. And at the same time, IMF have predicted the global economy is going to be somewhere around 3.3%. So IMF predicts that the global economy is going to rise by what? 3.3%. Government of India is optimistic to have a growth rate of how much? 6.4. And if government of India is saying that 6.4, then RBI is going to say 6.1. IMF is going to say that 5.8. World Bank is going to say that 5.9. So these are some predictions about India's economy. Fine, Indian economy. So in the first chapter, they have not dealt with in detail about the Indian economy, because rest of the chapter based on only on what? Indian economy. Okay, listen again. First chapter tells about three things: global, Indian, and state. So first chapter, they have given a good detail of the world economy. And they have given some prediction about what? Indian economy, and they said that we are going to deal all the issues of Indian economy in subsequent chapter, from chapter number 2 to chapter number 30. They have mentioned this. Then they have mentioned few data of what? Few data of states. And they also admitted one thing. What they admitted? They have admitted that in this year's survey, we are not going to discuss states' economy in detail as we have did in the previous surveys. Why? Why? Because the previous survey was released few months back only. Election year tha na? So last year was election year. So after the election, this economic survey was released in July. Fine. So within 7-8 months, you have did what? You have did for another survey. And because of the short span of time, you are not able to collect all the relevant data. And that is why states economy you have not dealt in the detail. But in the opening chapter, they have given few analysis. And good news for Telangana is what? Good news for Telangana is that they have not got any good allocation from the budget. But Telangana is a best performing state to manage their tax resources on their own. Almost 86% of the tax revenue is coming from where? Telangana state on its own. Fine. So in that context, Telangana is performing best and Punjab is performing worst. So basically for states, see, if you are not going to focus, then be ready for 8:30. Fine? Or focus. I'll wind up in 5 minutes. Fine? We'll continue from tomorrow. And those people who are seriously interested and they want to write the exam this year or even next year, I know many of you, even who are watching online also, many of you do not know the basic things. My objective is what? Through this economic survey and budget class, those who have did in the class, they can get a quick revision. Those who do not understand the things, they will understand the severity of the topic. Like in the class, there are the many people who do not know that bond yield and bond price. And they can understand how crucial it is for to understanding. So this is also a learning lesson for you. Fine. I'll promise you I'll not extend beyond 1.5 hours. I'll wind it up. But you also have to promise me that for that 1.5 hours, you are going to be extremely concentrated and focused. Question, concept, understanding, that's my promise. You have to give your 100%, that is your promise. Fine. So be mentally prepared for the session. I will take as many sessions you want, but I will make sure that in the budget and economic survey, you should understand each and every fine line which is mentioned there. It is not going to create any problem. And if you will do this way, then even those people who are not going to appear this year, when they appear next or next to next year, they will find that this session is going to be extremely productive and helpful in order to understand the things later on. Okay, so just focus for next few minutes. I'll wind it up. Fine. From tomorrow, strictly 1.5 hours. I understand that you are having a lot of classes. Don't worry. So what I was mentioning, in that section, they have mentioned few good things about the state and some bad things about the state. There are states, see, basically states have three resources for their expenditure. One, their own revenue sources. Their own revenue resources. Second, what they are getting from where? Central pool. Third, borrowings. Fine. So if a state is very resilient and it is good in what? It is good in their own resources, then they have more fiscal independence with respect to what? Government of India. Government of India is giving aid or not. I don't care because I have my own resources. Fine. This is. And if you do not have your own resources, your dependency will on central government is going to what? Increase. Number two. Now what I'm going to discuss is very important. Despite state of Telangana have good amount of or the best performance in terms of their own resources, but when it is about capex, they are not performing properly. Even their more expenditure is going on what? Revenue expenditure. Fine. More and more expenditure going on what? Revenue expenditure. That is not a good sign. Because if you are going to do same, then your sources of income is going to what? Decrease in upcoming years. Then you will face the problem what Punjab is facing, West Bengal is facing right now. Whereas state like Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, they are getting good amount of central assistance because they are big state, population factors work, but they spend more and more money, especially Uttar Pradesh, spending more and more money on what? Capex. So despite below par performance on their own revenue sources, state of Uttar Pradesh is having a better capacity to perform in the future because they are spending on what? Capital expenditure. And the most disturbing trend is what? Most disturbing trend is that overall, all the states in India, their capital expenditure is overall, all the states' capital expenditure is shrinking, and expenditure on revenue, especially on subsidies and freebies, is what? Increasing. And that is not a right trend to follow. This is recommended by the government of India. In fact, in December, State of Economy survey was released by the RBI. RBI also have indicated this thing. What Indian states are doing? Indian states are not focusing on capital expenditure. They are focusing on what? Revenue expenditure. The culture of freebies. And that is going to be dangerous trend for what? Dangerous trend for the economy. So RBI also said that overall states have improved their economic financial health. But the problem is that despite their financial health is improving, they are not spending sufficient money on what? Capex. Okay. Acha. Today's session PDF, I will send it to you on the YouTube channel. Also, it will be available once the session will be uploaded. On the YouTube channel will be uploaded, and PDF I will also provide you by the tonight or tomorrow morning. You will get the PDF. I will not give the PDF in advance. Fine, better, because I have not classified question and answer separately. Topic, question, answer. Topic, question, answer. So in this way, I am preparing the PDF for the daily lectures. So lecture number 1 PDF you will get tomorrow. Fine. Thank you. I have ended earlier.